Welcome to the Repugen Podcast, where we transform patient care.
Welcome back to another episode of the Repugen Podcast. Again, here with you is Jennifer with my co-host John. Today, we're diving into a topic that doesn't always get the spotlight it deserves, but absolutely should: patient churn. Specifically, how reducing patient churn ties directly into improving patient satisfaction and long-term retention.
Yes, and this is such an important conversation. We hear so much about patient acquisition, marketing campaigns, digital ads, outreach strategies, but not nearly enough about what happens after the patient walks through the door.
Exactly. And that's where churn quietly creeps in. In healthcare, patient churn happens when patients stop coming back, delay follow-ups, or switch providers without saying a word. No complaint, no formal notice. They just disappear.
And that's what makes it so tricky. It's not always obvious. Clinics might not notice churn until revenue dips, referrals decline, or care outcomes start to suffer. By then, it's already impacting the organization in multiple ways.
Right. And what's interesting is that sustainable growth in healthcare isn't just about bringing in new patients. It's about maintaining trust with the ones you already have. Retention is often more cost-effective than acquisition, and it's more predictable long-term.
There's actually a well-known statistic from Harvard Business Review that even a 5% increase in retention can significantly boost profitability. And while that stat is often cited in broader business contexts, healthcare is absolutely feeling those benefits now as well.
Let's talk about how churn shows up, because it looks different depending on the care setting.
It really does. In primary care, churn might look like a patient switching providers after just a few visits. In specialty care, it might be missed follow-ups or incomplete treatment plans. And in urgent care, it's often one-off visits that never turn into long-term relationships.
And the reasons aren't always dramatic. It's rarely one catastrophic experience. More often, it's a slow buildup, unclear communication, long wait times, billing confusion, or patients feeling rushed during appointments.
That emotional component is huge. Clinical outcomes matter, of course, but how patients feel during their interactions plays an equally powerful role in whether they return.
Let's dig into that connection between satisfaction and retention, because they're not just loosely related, they're deeply connected.
Absolutely. Research, including CAHPS surveys conducted by AHRQ, shows a strong correlation between patient experience scores and loyalty, recommendations, and continuity of care.
So when patients feel respected, informed, and supported, they're more likely to follow treatment plans and come back for future care.
And here's the thing. Dissatisfied patients often don't complain. They don't escalate. They just quietly move on to another provider. That silent exit is what makes churn so dangerous.
Which is why organizations can't rely solely on formal complaints to gauge satisfaction. By the time someone files a complaint, you may have already lost several others who never said a word.
This is where early warning signs become critical. Missed appointments, delayed follow-ups, slow responses to reminders.
And something that's often overlooked: emerging patterns in patient feedback and online reviews.
Yes, numbers alone don't tell the full story. Star ratings are helpful, but qualitative feedback, comments, recurring themes, tone, reveal sentiment. Research like the PubMed article, Patient Experience, the New Heart of Healthcare, highlights how experience metrics can act as early indicators.
It's almost like reading between the lines. If multiple patients mention feeling rushed, or confused about billing, or unclear about next steps, that's not random. That's a pattern.
And patterns give you the opportunity to intervene before patients disengage entirely.
So once you identify friction points, what's next? A big one is access and communication.
Definitely. Simplifying scheduling, clarifying follow-up steps, and providing clear instructions can dramatically improve the patient experience.
Even small things, setting realistic expectations around wait times, can reduce frustration. It's not always about eliminating waits completely. It's about transparency.
And consistency. Confirmations, test results, follow-ups. When communication is timely and reliable, patients perceive professionalism. These small, dependable gestures reinforce trust.
It's interesting how often perceived quality comes down to these micro-interactions rather than just the clinical encounter itself.
Another critical piece is closing the loop on patient feedback.
Yes, collecting feedback without acting on it is worse than not collecting it at all.
Exactly. Patients notice when their concerns lead to improvements, and they definitely notice when nothing changes. Transparency paired with action builds trust.
There's a PubMed study using patient feedback to drive quality improvement in hospitals that shows structured feedback reviews improve processes and deepen trust, especially when leadership is involved.
And communicating those changes back to patients reinforces that their voice matters. It turns feedback into partnership.
Retention doesn't end when the appointment ends.
Not at all. Follow-ups, reminders, care instructions, and even occasional check-ins strengthen continuity. Clear next steps reduce uncertainty.
When patients know exactly what happens next, they feel guided instead of abandoned.
And personalization plays a role here too. Thoughtful outreach, without being intrusive, builds confidence. Coordinated care across teams ensures patients experience consistency.
Consistency is underrated. When patients see alignment across front desk, clinicians, billing, and follow-up communication, it reinforces loyalty over time.
This really comes down to culture. Reducing churn requires alignment across the entire organization.
Front desk staff, clinicians, billing teams, leadership, everyone shapes the patient experience.
Training teams to recognize early signs of dissatisfaction helps address issues before they escalate. Retention isn't just a metric on the dashboard, it's a shared responsibility.
Deloitte's analysis on the value of patient experience highlights that organizations with experience-led culture consistently outperform peers in loyalty and outcomes.
Which reinforces that this isn't just a soft skill initiative, it's a strategic growth lever.
Let's talk measurement. Star ratings are visible and important, but they only scratch the surface.
Better indicators include retention rates, return visits, adherence to follow-ups, and engagement trends over time.
Breaking data down by service line or patient type can also uncover where churn is happening most frequently.
And that allows organizations to make targeted operational changes instead of broad, unfocused adjustments.
If there's one takeaway from today's conversation, it's this. Retention is earned, not engineered.
Yes, you can't automate trust. You build it through consistency, responsiveness, and genuine care over time.
Reducing churn isn't a one-time campaign. It's a long-term commitment to improving satisfaction and strengthening patient relationships.
And when patients feel valued, heard, and confident in their care, they stay. They refer others, they become advocates.
Sustainable growth starts there, with patients who trust you enough to come back.
And that's the foundation for long-term success in healthcare today.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the RepuGen podcast. If you found this discussion helpful, be sure to subscribe and share it with your colleagues. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the RepuGen podcast, your path to better healthcare.